Christmas is all about those special occasion items that we bake or make, whatever they are, whether they're the cookies, the snack mixes, the different spreads or dips, those items that we create memories from and traditions start. This is a sticky date cake, and it is so delicious. It kind of has remnants of almost an English cake because it comes out and you put a sauce on it and let it really soak in, and it gets just delicious, dense, rich cake. I am so excited to share it with you, and it's one of my favorites. It's kind of a riff on a cake my grandma would have made, a date cake, which is kind of an old style cake, but it has tons of extra ingredients in it that are so good. So to start, we're gonna put some butter into our mixer. I like to use an electric mixer. You could also, use just a hand mixer, but since we are kind of putting together quite a bit of ingredients and it gets a little bit heavier, having a mixer is kind of nice. Then into that, I'm gonna put some brown sugar. Now, I'm using dark brown sugar. You could use a regular or a light brown sugar, but the dark brown adds more of that toffee-like caramel stickiness that you really kind of want. So I really like using the dark chocolate. Not dark chocolate, dark brown sugar, you know what I mean. So I'm gonna put on my paddle, and then we're just gonna mix it up until it's somewhat combined. Brown sugar never creams in the same way that like a white sugar will. It doesn't get near as light and fluffy. And the sugar to butter ratio on this isn't also gonna make it be as light and fluffy, but you can see when it starts coming together and hitting the bottom of the bowl like that, that it's well creamed as it's gonna get. So to that, I'm gonna add some eggs. Eggs, of course, just add that lift. They add lightness to a cake, and they give you kind of just that texture that you want. I'm gonna put, a lot of times you see recipes say one at a time, and on certain recipes that is definitely important. For this, with the minimal ingredients I have in there at the moment, this is just fine. So we're gonna add the eggs. We're gonna mix those in until they're well combined, and then add an extra good ingredient. I have the eggs mixed in, and it's looking a little broken with the sugar at the moment, but that's completely fine. It will keep working in. And now what we're gonna add, and this is kind of the interesting thing where you can really shows that it was a recipe my grandma would have made. It has applesauce in it. Applesauce was used a lot in cakes, and this is a very, to me, American thing because we a lot of times, in the Midwest especially, would use what we had. So apples always were plentiful in the fall, and we would have a lot of them. We would preserve them. Growing up, we actually froze our applesauce instead of canned it, but you could can or freeze it. And then you had a lot to use, and it actually kind of takes the place sometimes of an oil or other liquids in cakes, and it makes a really, not only rich, but an actual really good moist cake without being too dense. So it's a great thing to add, and it's one of those things that once it's in here, you're never gonna know. I have other applesauce cakes on my website, but this one is just a really delicious, and the flavors in it and spices in it are completely different. So I'm gonna work that applesauce in. Right before I'm done mixing that in, I'm just gonna add some vanilla. That's not the main flavoring of this, but vanilla in the background is just always good. So with all of my wet ingredients in there, we can move on to the dry, and it's pretty simple. We're gonna add some flour. If you follow my videos, you know I always overfill a flour with a scoop. That's kind of like sifting it. We're kind of doing that work already. Swipe it off so you know it's level, and then put it in. If you just go and scoop it in, you end up packing a lot more flour in than you think. So it's just a good way to make sure it's kind of nice and light and kind of sifted. So we're gonna add in our flour. We're gonna add in some salt. Salt in any sweet just kind of balances out those flavors. It's needed. You don't necessarily notice it, but you'll be glad it's there. So for the flavorings, cinnamon, of course. I love those kind of spicy, warm notes, and it just makes it just smells seasonal. It smells festive. And then we're gonna add some allspice. Allspice is one of those, I think, underutilized spices. We use it usually with apples a lot of times traditionally, but oh, it adds such that good spicy note, and it really plays well with cinnamon. I love the two together. We're gonna add a few cloves. Cloves can really overpower, as can allspice, so you just want enough. And I think the thing with any of these, like allspice, cloves, a lot of times we let them sit in our cabinet and we don't use them for what? Years? And I mean years. I've gone through people's cabinets and been like, look at the date. Spices have oil in them, and when that oil gets old, when it goes bad, you don't taste it. You don't have the flavor that you need. So please, go through your spices, especially around Christmas, and just make sure they're fresh. I'm putting in some ground nutmeg right now. I love to use whole nutmeg and grind it because nutmeg is one that can go rancid really quickly. And if you have it ground in your cupboard for a long time, it's not gonna have a lot of flavor. So the point of this special Christmas time is the flavor. We want the flavor there. So then I'm gonna add some baking soda, needed, kind of just one of those staples that you need to have. And again, even with your baking soda, whether it's baking soda or powder, check those around Christmas too and make sure you have fresh because you don't wanna go to all this work and then have it not work. So we're gonna mix that dry ingredients in until it's just combined. So that's just mixed up, perfect. I'm gonna actually pull it off and we're gonna finish this by hand, you guys. So yes, clean off the beater. I know that I probably shouldn't be doing this in front of you all because for some reason, people on TV, people that you are like professionals, they don't do that. Why? I wanna get all that stuff off of there. I'm gonna clean the beater. And I want you to see that too because I want you to clean the beater. That's good stuff. So, last remaining ingredients. That was my PSA for the day. Dates. I chopped the dates. They were medjool dates. I pitted them. You can also probably buy them pre-pitted. I just often will buy whole ones because they keep longer, I think. And then we're gonna do some nuts. So I toasted these pecans in the oven. I think the thing about this cake that I really like and what makes it festive is like the extra ingredients that are in it. It has, toasted pecans, which so seasonal. It has those dates, all those spices. You don't even know the applesauce is in there. So I'm gonna finish chopping these. We're gonna throw them in. And then guys, it's gonna smell delicious in here. I have them all chopped up. You can do a rough chop. There's no science to it. And then throw those in. It's kind of funny because I think in like modern times, we don't put things like dates and nuts as much in a cake. Why, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me how tastes somewhat change, but I think it's time we bring them back. So it is time we all make this cake, put the pecans in it, put the dates in it, because it's just a delicious cake. And for me, I still make applesauce every year and keep it in the freezer, and I'm always gonna have it, so I love to use it. So we're gonna put it in a bundt pan. You don't have to have a special bundt pan, but sometimes with all the fun designs there are, guys, it's just fun to use them. I love to do it. I am gonna give it a quick spray with some nonstick spray. Even if it says it's nonstick, when they have all these sharp kind of nooks, crannies, I feel better if it's sprayed. And then we're just gonna pour it in, get it all in there. It kind of reminds me of those steamed cakes you would see a lot of times in English recipes where they steam them, but this isn't quite, obviously it's not a steamed cake, but I think it just comes out as moist and it has the richness of that, which I really like. But I think there's a lot of less time and effort put into it, which is always kind of nice. I'm gonna clean out all the batter. I'm not leaving any of it behind because all that affects the size of the cake and the recipe, and it's too good of ingredients to leave behind. I'm gonna smooth out the top just slightly, just to make sure as it bakes, it should also fill in. And then if I get any pieces or bits up on here, I kind of like to clean them off just so they don't burn on. I think that's it'll just make it nicer that way. And then yes, even what's on the spatula, we're putting that in there. And we're gonna pop it into our preheated oven. We're gonna let it bake. And then when it comes out, we are putting a sauce on it that's gonna soak in. This is a special cake, and I'm excited to share it with you. The cake is in the oven. It's starting to smell good. So while it's in there, this is not just a cake that's plain, no. We make a sauce for it that we pour over it while it's warm and it really starts soaking in, kind of like a rum cake, but with slightly different flavors. So in my kettle, which I know some of you always tell me it's not a kettle, it's a saucepan. That is correct, but it's the same thing. We see what it is. Okay, I'm gonna put some butter. I think you saw that. I'm also gonna add some brown sugar. Again, it's that dark brown sugar because why? It has the caramelly notes, it has those toffee-like notes. it has that extra flavor in it, which is pretty much just extra like molasses in it. We're gonna add the zest of an orange. So orange in general at Christmas, I think is traditional, and it always reminds me of my grandma Conrad, my mom's mom, used to tell me the story of how she would remember at Christmas, they would get something exotic in their stocking or with their gift, and it would be like an orange. And to her, that was so special, which has always just hit me how now we take so much of that for granted. But she still always, when I remembered her when she was still around, she would always have oranges in the fridge. And I think it's because they were always so still special to her, and the idea that you could just go buy them was just something extraordinary. So we're putting the zest in because that has all those kind of essential oils of the orange and so much flavor. Then we're gonna cut the orange and we're gonna put all the juice in there. And I'm just gonna use an orange juicer. You can do it by hand. This one has big seeds in it. Depending on the type of orange, they sometimes have no seeds even, but this one definitely does. So we're gonna juice both halves. It smells delicious. But orange also, it's just very traditional with dates, with the pecans we're putting in. It's those flavors and those spices that we put in all go together. We're gonna put in a little bit of vanilla. It's just that extra flavor. With the orange, oh, it smells good. Some maple syrup. Again, that just adds for that good sauce consistency too. Kind of, you know, a lot of times certain types of ones would have maybe some corn syrup, but this one has maple syrup. Put in some salt just to offset all that sweetness. You do not have to, but I put cognac in it. I love the cognac, and I think it really adds just, you know, a special kind of Christmas hit. I mean, it's not enough that you can light the cake on fire, but it adds really good flavor. So we're gonna take this over to the stove. We're gonna let it melt together and just come to a slight simmer and then keep it warm. We're gonna put this over kind of low heat here. It has a while to bake in the oven, so I'm just gonna let this slowly come up to a simmer. It's gonna melt everything together. It's really nothing, you don't wanna necessarily cook it per se, but you want all the sugars to melt. You want everything just to cook together. So we're gonna sit there, let it all come together. It already smells good. It smells really good. It has baked. I'm gonna pull the cake out of the oven. Look at that, it just perfectly fills it up. It smells so good. Since it's such a kind of a dense cake, it takes a little bit longer. So to check it, you can always just take a skewer. That's what I like to do. And just stick it down in. It comes out pretty clean. So what I'm gonna do, we have our sauce here that we made. I'm gonna take the skewer and just poke holes all over it while it's still warm. And they're small holes, but this is just gonna help that sauce when we start putting it on really go down into the cake. So I'm gonna do this all the way around the cake, and then we'll start putting the sauce on. I've poked the whole thing, you can't do it anymore. I'm gonna take our sauce that we made, and if you remember, it has the cognac in it, it has the orange in it. I'm just gonna start drizzling it all over. Some of it obviously will just go right to the sides and kind of work down the side of the cake, and that's fine. The rest of it hopefully will go down into those holes we just made. See how it just soaks in? You have to kind of do this a little bit slowly, because if you just dump it all on, it'll just go to the sides and then it will just come out. So you want it to like actually work down into the cake. So I definitely try to take time and let it slowly go in, especially up here towards the center, because it wants to hit the crown and go down to the side. So I make sure to get it up in here, and then it just kind of, as you watch, like it pooled there, but it's then working down into the holes, and then that will go away. So we're gonna keep doing this slowly, methodically, but guys, already it just smells good. So I'm gonna keep doing this. We're gonna let it cool a little bit. Then you'll see how pretty it is. So the sauce is on there. And you can see it's all sticky on top. I love that. And I saved a little bit of sauce because you can serve some of it with it, but it's really kind of soaked in. It's still warm, and I like to pop it out of a bump pan when it's still warm. If you let it sit in there too long and kind of really cools off, that stickiness can make it hard to get off. Which this is one of those things, you guys. I'm always scared to do this, especially in front of people, because it's like a lick and a prayer that you have to do with it. So like, pray with me. Ooh, let it come out pretty. Okay, because you're watching. Which I guess I could just cut and not show you how it looks. Oh, okay, that actually turned out much better than it could have, because I didn't want to make another one. Guys, look at that. That is a beautiful cake. I love that stickiness is kind of starting to, oh, guys, it just looks so good. And it's so festive. So you see the steam coming off of it. I need to let this sit here and actually cool off before I would cut it. One other thing you guys should know, a little bit more of the sauce, just in case it didn't come all the way to the tops, I like to take a brush because you want to keep your cake plate kind of nice, and I just like to dab on some of that sauce. I know, but you really want it sticky, that's the point. So I'm gonna let it cool off, add just a little bit more zhuzh, and then I'll cut it for you because it smells good. So it's really for me. It's cooled. It looks good. So at this point you can embellish it. You can put powdered sugar on it. It honestly doesn't need anything. So I am going to just cut. Oh, it's cutting really nicely. You always kind of don't know for sure until you just make that first cut, but what's nice about it is a rich cake. So it serves a few people. Look at that, you guys. You can see how that sauce has really penetrated down in. You have the nuts and the dates, that rich actual cake with beautiful texture. I'll try it for you. It has so much flavor. It's moist. The spices in it just really kind of set off and give you that Christmas holiday tone, along with the dates, the nuts, that sauce with a little bit of orange and that cognac. Oh, guys, I love this. It is so festive. In past years, I've served this at parties, at Christmas get-togethers. This year, we may not be doing that, but how fun to have this just for an intimate family meal for the people in your household. It's so delicious. It's so fun and festive. And I can't wait for you guys to try it. Try this cake out. Tell me what you think. As always, what helps me the most is when you guys share these videos around. And it also helps so many other people see how fun and easy it can be to do these things and make new traditions and new memories around such a good time of year. So share it. Check out wiseguide.com for this recipe, other great recipes, tips, how-tos, whatever you need. Keep following along because I'm always doing more. And I love to share it with you and invite you into my farm every time we do one of these just to do them together. So make something special. Enjoy the holidays. It's the best time of the year.